You make plans, you agree to meet, you block off the time, you even tell yourself, this will be good for me. And then your phone buzzes. Hey, something came up, can we cancel? And instead of disappointment, instead of irritation, there's a quiet, almost embarrassing feeling. Relief. Your shoulders drop, your breathing changes, your mind goes, oh, thank God. You don't say that out loud, of course. You type back something polite. No worries at all. Totally understand. Maybe even a smiley face you don't fully mean. But inside, something loosens, the pressure evaporates. And then comes the second thought. Why do I feel better? Wasn't this something I agreed to? Wasn't I supposed to enjoy it? If this reaction feels familiar, if a canceled plan secretly feels like a small gift, you're not lazy, broken, or antisocial. You're responding to something deeper, something quiet, something that doesn't get talked about much. Because for some people, canceled plans don't feel like rejection. They feel like permission. And once you understand why, you'll start seeing this pattern everywhere, especially in yourself. Let's start with one kind of person who knows this feeling very well. Picture this. It's the day of the plan, maybe dinner, maybe a meetup, maybe something you agreed to weeks ago when your energy felt limitless. All day there's a low hum of tension in the background, not panic, just a constant awareness. You're calculating time, what you'll wear, how long it will last, whether you'll have to be on. You're not dreading the people, you're dreading the performance. This is the psychology of people who treat social plans like a stage appearance, even when they don't realize it. For them, being around others isn't just presence, it's output. Listening attentively, reacting appropriately, managing tone, asking the right questions, being interesting but not too much, engaged but not exhausting. It's work, subtle work, invisible work. So when plans get canceled, what disappears isn't the event, it's the obligation to perform. The relief comes from no longer having to manage impressions, emotions, or expectations, no longer having to be available in a way that costs energy. If this is you, you might notice something strange. You often enjoy social interactions once they're happening. You laugh, you connect, you think, this was worth it. But the anticipation, that's where the weight lives. Canceled plans short-circuit that entire process. No anticipation, no build-up, no mental rehearsal. Just quiet, and part of you exhales. Then there's another type, and this one is even quieter. These are people who don't mind plans, but feel strangely trapped by them. Once something is scheduled, the time no longer feels like theirs. Even if it's hours away, it occupies mental real estate. The day becomes segmented. Before the plan, after the plan, everything bends around it. They can't fully relax beforehand. They don't start anything immersive. They don't let themselves drift. There's a sense of waiting, of being on standby. So when plans are canceled, what they feel isn't joy, it's freedom. Time opens back up. The day becomes whole again. Possibilities return. Even doing nothing suddenly feels intentional rather than stolen. This mindset often develops in people who value autonomy deeply, even if they don't describe themselves that way. They like unstructured time. They like following energy instead of schedules. They like choosing in the moment. And here's the twist. Many of them still say yes to plans because they want connection. They don't hate people. They hate feeling pre-committed to a version of themselves that might not exist that day. So cancellation feels like a quiet restoration of choice. If you've ever felt instantly more present the moment a plan dissolves, this might be you. But relief doesn't always come from freedom. Sometimes it comes from safety. There's a group of people for whom plans carry emotional risk, not because something bad will happen, but because something vulnerable might. These are people who feel deeply, even when they appear calm, who read between lines, who absorb moods, who take conversations seriously, even casual ones. For them, social time isn't light. It can be meaningful, intense, or subtly draining in ways they can't always explain. They replay moments afterward. They wonder how they came across. They think about what they shared or didn't.
So when plans are canceled, relief arrives not because they wanted to avoid the interaction, but because they wanted to avoid the after, the emotional processing, the mental replay, the lingering exposure. It's the relief of not having to open something they don't have the energy to close. If this resonates, you might notice you're selective about who you see. But even with people you love, you sometimes need long recovery periods. Not because anything went wrong, just because connection, for you, leaves fingerprints. Canceled plans protect your inner space. And then there's a type that surprises people. These are the ones who appear reliable, responsible, always showing up, the ones others lean on, the ones who rarely cancel themselves. And yet, when someone else cancels, they feel lighter. This relief comes from people who say yes automatically, not because they want to, but because they feel they should. They've learned to prioritize harmony, to avoid disappointing others, to be agreeable, flexible, easy. So their calendar slowly fills with obligations they didn't consciously choose. When plans are canceled, it's not the activity they're relieved to lose, it's the pressure they never admitted they were under, the silent resentment they didn't allow themselves to feel, the internal voice that said, "I don't really want this, but it's fine." Cancellation interrupts that pattern. It gives them rest without guilt, an out they didn't have to ask for. If this is you, relief may come paired with confusion. You might think, why didn't I just say no? The answer is usually simple and uncomfortable, because you've learned that being needed feels safer than being honest. But there's one more type worth talking about, and this one hides behind humor. These are people who joke about being tired, about canceling, about not having the social battery. They laugh it off, they make it casual, but underneath there's often something else. Overstimulation. Modern life doesn't leave much quiet. Messages, screens, notifications, noise, expectations, movement, interaction. Even rest is performative now. For people who feel easily saturated, plans aren't just plans, they're another input, another layer, another thing to process. Canceled plans feel like a sensory relief. Fewer sounds, fewer decisions, fewer faces, less demand. It's not that they want isolation forever, it's that their nervous system is already full. If you've ever canceled plans and then sat in silence, doing nothing, feeling oddly restored, that wasn't laziness, that was regulation. Now here's the part no one says out loud. Feeling relief when plans get canceled doesn't mean you dislike people. It doesn't mean you're flaky. It doesn't mean you're antisocial. It means your energy, boundaries, and inner rhythms don't always match the pace of expectation. And the discomfort comes not from the relief, but from judging yourself for it. We're taught that wanting plans makes you healthy, that being busy makes you normal, that enthusiasm is the correct response to social life. So when relief shows up instead, we assume something's wrong. But maybe relief is information. Maybe it's telling you something about how you commit, about how often you override your needs, about the difference between connection you choose and connection you tolerate. Here's a quiet experiment. Next time you feel relieved by a cancellation, don't push the feeling away. Don't shame it. Just notice what exactly disappeared. Was it pressure, expectation, performance, time segmentation, emotional exposure, noise? The answer will tell you more about yourself than the plan ever could. And if you recognize yourself in more than one of these patterns, most people do, that's okay. Humans aren't types, we're mixtures. We change depending on context, season, and exhaustion level. The real insight isn't why do I feel relief, it's what would my plans look like if I listened to that relief earlier. Maybe fewer yeses, maybe softer commitments, maybe more space between interactions, maybe choosing depth over frequency, or maybe just allowing yourself to want rest without needing an excuse. So which part of this felt uncomfortably accurate? Which kind of relief do you recognize? If this made you see your own reactions a little differently, stay curious. These quiet behaviors are often the most honest signals we have. And sometimes the feeling we're taught to hide is the one trying to tell us the truth.